All right, well, I'll do some introductions for right now. So welcome everybody to Oracle Projects Powerhouse with Andrew Gooch. And before I pass it off to Andrew, I want to go over a few things. Everyone will receive the recording and presentation within the next 24 hours following the webinar. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, I recommend saving them for the end, but also feel free to type them in the Q&A section or the chat throughout the presentation. And now a little bit about our presenter, Andrew. Andrew is part of the commercial team here at More for Apps, and they focus on explaining what our solutions have to offer and help with the implementation process. His background is actually more technical than that, though, and he's had a number of developer and DBA roles in the Oracle space since the early days of 11i. These days, his role is more functional, and that gives him exposure to a lot of the problems you might be facing in data integration. But without further ado, here is Andrew.
Well, hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us in today's session. Stephanie, can you just confirm that you can hear me clearly?
Yep, I can hear you.
Brilliant. Okay, so I'll get right into it. So today's topic is up on the slide there. Essentially, we're going to be talking about Oracle projects. So we'll discuss the breadth and scope of Oracle's offerings there in general terms. Talk about the demands it places on you in terms of data collection, maintenance, and then we'll look a bit in detail at the options you have to speed things up, the challenges and shortcomings of some of those solutions, and we'll introduce you to the More for Apps approach to getting past some of those. So thanks, Stephanie, for introducing me. I'll go on to the next slide, and I think it's probably worth first up introducing More for Apps. For those of you who aren't familiar with us, so you have an understanding of who we are and also why you'd want to be listening to what we have to say. So More for Apps is a third-party software house which offers Excel spreadsheet-based solutions for loading, analyzing, and maintaining your Oracle ERP data. So we've been around a long time. We've got a global footprint and are a trusted supplier to a large portfolio of customers who use our products on a daily basis to speed up their data processing. So today's discussion will center on Oracle ERP Cloud Fusion, and our offering in that sphere is called ERP Cloud Toolbox, and that suite currently offers 4 products focused on the individual areas you see named here, and within each of those are many individual tools designed to speed up your business. Now, many of you will have come to Cloud Fusion from eBusiness Suite, so you may be familiar with our offerings in that market. We've got about 40 tools there, and those come under the EBS Toolbox banner. So those of you familiar with those products in that arena will no doubt attest to the advantages that they provide you, but we're going to start from scratch today and assume no prior knowledge in this audience. And this will be the schedule for today. So we'll look at Oracle projects, since that's the area we're focused on. In this session, we'll look at the challenges we face with data capture and maintenance there, and look at the options you have to meet those challenges, including FBDI. After that, we'll look at the More for Apps solutions, and I'll try to give you a sense for what they're all about. Now, we will stop briefly in the middle to get some feedback from you in the audience about your experiences with Oracle projects and data integration. But otherwise, there should be time for a Q&A session at the end, like Stephanie said. So hold your questions for then if you can. It should help things run smoothly. So let's get started. Oracle projects. Well, it's a pretty broad area. And whether your business implements classic start and end projects to accomplish outcomes, or uses Oracle projects to manage individual outlets or stores within your organization, as we see a lot of companies doing, you'll be juggling a great deal of data and managing a lot of steps and processes. And this diagram highlights many of the areas you'll be touching on. Some you'll be implementing, others not. Oracle projects allows for a good level of flexibility in that respect. Whatever your circumstances, there's no getting away from loading the data. Templates need to be created, projects set up with tasks and so on. You might be assigning resources, team members, assets, setting transaction controls, managing contracts or costings. And you'll probably be running forecasts and doing budgets. So this actually might be a good time to find out how the land lies for the audience. With that in mind, we have a poll question here. Would love it if you could answer for us. It's interesting information to share with your fellow audience members, but also valuable for companies like ours who are really trying to build products to best fit your needs. So not sure if Stephanie has anything to say about that. I think it's popped up now. I can see it in front of me.
Going for people to answer.
If you find anything missing on that list, feel free to type it in either in the chat, or I think there's another section there at the bottom. I'll just scroll down to have a look. Yeah, just to make sure that we're aware of what data points you're most interested in.
Let's wait a few more seconds. All right, last call. All right, let's see. But all over the board.
Yeah,
Templates, is
so
it?
it's a lot of foundation data there, financial projects and templates. That's what we'd expect to see. I see a number of people have said budgets. We won't be covering budgets too much in this webinar. We are going to run a budgets focused webinar in the next quarter. So stay tuned for that. We're going to be looking mostly at projects more holistically today, not quite so focused on particular areas like that. Is that finished, Stephanie? Can I move on?
Yeah, go ahead.
Right, okay, I'll just close it in front of me. Right, so just moving on. What's on the next slide? Right, well, going back to this slide, whatever your situation, all of this comes with a significant overhead in terms of data capture and maintenance. So where does all that information come from? How do we get it into the system? Well, firstly, much of that data comes from outside Oracle. Real world information passed to your team from other teams or from customers and suppliers. Digital information passed over from external sources, IT systems, remote systems, data files, APIs, web services. So how we get it in is often dependent on where it comes from. And there are essentially three methods of getting data into Oracle. The Oracle forms, bespoke automation solutions, either built in-house, operated by IT partners or third-party software, and integration processes like FBDI. Now there's strengths and weaknesses to all three. Forms we all know well, that's the Oracle front end, manual data entry essentially. And they don't require much explaining. You get them out of the box and in principle they'll work for every requirement. But they take time and manpower to operate. And you'll get problems when data volumes creep up. IT-driven automation, that's the reverse really. It's ideally suited for high data volumes, and you can tailor solutions to be an exact match for your requirements, but that performance win comes at a price. It's costly to set up and maintain. And in the case of third-party or partner-provided solutions, you do lose a little bit of autonomy and control over that process. So it's the third one we're going to concentrate on in a few minutes, but we'll start by reminding you all of the challenge. Using the front-end forms as an example, I just want to highlight the problem of data complexity. So this diagram shows a simplified navigation for entering data in via the front end, and it underscores the limitation of using data forms. Each level of detail is captured in its own form, and users have to navigate deep into entry form hierarchies and out again for each element. So that's time consuming, and because a lot of the data is hidden behind sub-level forms, it's not easy to get a clear picture of what's actually in the system. It also means a lot of time is eaten up without really adding any real value, just trying to keep our heads above water, keeping things up to date. But look, in small volumes, we can live with it. It's just when those volumes start to rise that we begin to see a real data entry bottleneck. And that complexity also has impact on bespoke solutions. Building systems to manage that is very expensive. So if you're considering a solution from one of your partners or a third-party product, that's going to be factored in, believe me. Now, I want to put bespoke solutions to one side for a minute. If your organization wants to go down that route, you're going to have your reasons. And although it might not be considered, well, it might be considered a bit cost prohibitive to most or some, there will always be reasons why for a particular business that's the best approach. And I don't want to say otherwise. So just good luck to you with that. For most of us, though, we're trying to achieve a balance, results versus cost. And it's there that the third approach, integration processes, finds its sweet spot. Typically, we're looking to reduce the costs of our IT processes. So why wouldn't we want to use a solution that takes what we already have and makes the best use of that? Integration solutions use the Oracle engine to process the data load, but we provide the data to them in our own way. The most famous of these in Cloud Fusion is FBDI, but there's others, ADFDI, VBCS, to name a few. So what are they? Well, typically they are methods of collecting data in a format and passing them up to Oracle. Almost all of them are centered around spreadsheets and more specifically Microsoft Excel. So why do they take that approach? Looking back at that earlier diagram, a lot of the time cost of data entry at the front end comes from navigating the forms, clicking in, out, back to the top, etc. The grid format of a spreadsheet strips the lion's share of that out. We lay out our data in the spreadsheet. We can scroll through, replicate values with copy right, copy down, even populate the whole data set with copy and paste. We can use formulas, calculate values automatically for us, and by scrolling through, view any number of records at the same time. In practical terms, the number of records we can set out is limitless. And against each record, we can populate the whole hierarchy of subordinate data without navigation by using the full breadth of columns available. And then only when we're happy with the data set do we pass it to Oracle. Now, in performance terms alone, that's a huge win over the front end, where every page and sub-page has to be loaded over and over again. So why Excel? Well, for a start, it's familiarity. We talk about harnessing skills we already have to save costs. Well, Excel is so familiar that everybody has at least basic skills, so there's very little need for user training. But it also comes with back-end features which allow integration functionality to be built in, be it macros, like we see with FBDI, or Excel add-ins. And other spreadsheet solutions just don't come close. So typically, they work like this. Prepare the data in the worksheet, pass the information up to be integrated with Oracle. Get the results, do a reconciliation. Anything wrong, do the corrections, send the data back. All the errors can be handled at the same time. So in theory, the process is easy and quick. And if they invoke the Oracle provided integration mechanisms, it's all supported and you're in good shape. Now, in the past, this is where we'd go straight into introducing our products, because historically in eBusiness Suite, there wasn't really much out there to help you achieve this sort of integration. Oh, I think you've gone too far. Sorry. But with Cloud Fusion, Oracle stepped up its game a bit. And there are a number of spreadsheet-based integration approaches available to you there. The most talked about is the first one, FBDI, but there's also ADFDI, VBCS. Most of you will be familiar with FBDI. It's the most widely used. We will be discussing it in more detail in a minute. But I'll briefly touch on the other two first. ADFDI is the old Web ADI from EBS, repackaged. And it's a good solution, but you're reliant on Oracle providing you with a template. And in projects in cloud, that's generally not the case. We find only costs and assets. VBCS, well, that's the engine that allows you to build your own integration tools coupled with the Oracle integration engine. And the scope there is huge. I mean, you can build integrators for any Oracle web service. And that's impressive because there are literally hundreds of web services to choose from. Just sticking to Oracle projects, this is what we see. And this list is by no means exhaustive. Many of the areas listed here have subordinate services associated with them for versions, notes, planning options, keywords, flex fields, attachments. And this is just the REST services, which is Oracle's current focus There are dozens of SOAP services too. So the scope is impressive. But who are we kidding? We're not all IT experts. And if we want to use VBCS, we're going to need to be, or pay someone who is. And anything we build, we'll need to maintain. So suddenly that cost versus rewards equation goes a bit out the window. So that leaves us with FBDI, which we all knew was coming. And I'm sure most of this audience here is familiar with FBDI. I'm pretty sure it's the main reason you're here. So what's all the fuss about? Well, this is a screenshot of an example FBDI template. This is the project import template. And you can see the information is entered into the grid. Multiple projects can go in the same sheet. So we can already see that some of that navigation in the forms is dropping out. So we can set up all the projects in one place. But there is a little navigation required here. We have sub tabs for the details. So tasks, for example. And FBDI does impose a bit of administrative overhead on us, linking the records on the main tab to the subordinate data. But in the main, though, we can populate the spreadsheet, leveraging all the advantages that Excel provides us with data replication, formulas, etc. And then we can review it and send it up to Oracle in one step. And in the project space, there is significant support with FBDI. We count 32 templates as of late last year. I think that number is likely to remain pretty static, but keep a lookout. Oracle does add templates from time to time. Where it falls down a little bit is that none of these spreadsheets encompasses the whole project's ecosystem. Some are more powerful than others, but to accomplish everything, you're going to need to manage lots of these simultaneously. And that means repeating the integration process for each one. And that process is not at all trivial. So this is the loading process flow for each template, and it's pretty convoluted. You populate and link all your data in the spreadsheet, and then you have to process it through the front end. So there are things to do in Excel, CSV conversions to do, import jobs to run in Oracle, error reports in PDF format to reconcile. And then any corrections will need to be put back into the worksheet, and we run the whole process again. Now, I don't want to belabor that point, but you've got a pretty complicated process there. We actually run a regular webinar we call Escape the Limitations of FBDI, which really goes into detail of why you might find FBDI a problem. So I encourage you to go to our website and check out the recording there. The main point to take away, though, is that by implementing this solution, you're exposing yourself to a bit of risk. It's involving a process that your data owning team might not have the expertise to operate, at least not without the risk that human error could break things down. And even if you accept that, you've added a new burden on your data entry teams. That iterative process, reacting to errors, making corrections, looping through the process flow a number of times per upload is going to frustrate your staff and lead to delays. And that's before we even start the conversation about data maintenance. All of these templates are designed primarily with data population in mind. Now, I've not worked for Oracle, so I can't say for sure, but to my mind, the FBDI interface seems to have been created with migrations in mind, or for populating high volumes of data into fresh implementations prior to go live. And then it's been left behind for BAU as a kind of afterthought. So very few of the templates are adapted for updates. To my knowledge, only these ones here support that concept at all. Now, FBDI has its proponents, but there are obviously a lot of complaints. We asked one of our partner Oracle projects consultants what he thought was the biggest struggle with projects in Oracle Cloud ERP, and this was his response. And we can make a summary of typical complaints quite easily. If we were going to list out the main challenges with FBDI, these are the most obvious points we'd want to raise. With FBDI, we get the advantage of data entry via a spreadsheet grid, but the rest of the process is a nightmare. There's no flexibility, no validation feedback when we're loading, and it's just really hard to operate. And that last one there is a big one. When it comes to data lifecycle, FBDI has got some pretty severe shortcomings. So much so actually that we had to reevaluate our intended content for today. The original subject matter for this webinar was meant to be a contrast between the More for Apps product and FBDI for data maintenance. But with the severe lack of support for updates in FBDI, we had to rethink it a little bit, and we widened the scope to projects in general. But now it seems actually a good time to introduce that More for Apps product to you. We saw the branding in the earlier slide, but I'll bring it up again. So More for Apps ERP Cloud Toolbox is what we want to show you today. Now that's a suite of tools that provides all the advantages of Excel to Oracle integration, but none of the drawbacks of FBDI and some of those other Oracle solutions. We think it's going to revolutionize your approach to data loading. The 4 modules allow you to manipulate your data in Excel with complete flexibility and pass that information up to Oracle via those REST and SOAP services we saw earlier. Within each module are pre-configured templates for each of the tasks that you'll need. So here's the list for projects. And this list of features is growing all the time. We're just in the process now of releasing the project forecasting, and there will be new functionality added as time goes by. With each of these, there's no need for any configuration, but you can also customize them, move columns around, remove unnecessary ones to create a working environment specific to your needs. And this is what it looks like. So we're going to see it in action shortly, but firstly, I'll just point out the main features. It's installed as an Excel add-in. So you have dedicated controls for uploading and downloading in the worksheet. And it's designed to give you maximum visibility of your whole data set at one time. So the whole of the data hierarchy is in the one sheet, projects, tasks, etc., all there together. So there's less scope to miss elements out because you can scroll across and inspect that everything's there. Download feature is worth emphasizing, so you can directly source the sheet with data from Oracle. And that's super useful for updates or any data replication tasks that you might perform. Edit forms allow you to inspect multiple values at the same time, and the Oracle validation lists and so on are there to ensure a clean data set. So this is what we call advanced validation. You get feedback directly in row for your uploads. Any errors clearly marked and generally will indicate which field you need to correct. There's no reconciliation process like with FBDI. All the information is in the spreadsheet at your fingertips. Layouts are flexible. So at any time, you're free to move columns around, remove any you're not using without impacting subsequent loads. So you can design a worksheet that absolutely fits your process without any unnecessary guff. The upload process is invoked by the button up there. So there are no steps performed from outside the spreadsheet. So how does that stack up against FBDI? Going back to that list of challenges we saw earlier, we can see how the ERP toolbox compares. With the More for Apps product, those issues have gone away. And with the user-focused interface, there are some extra features to make the whole data entry process more manageable. So we get a tool that gives us all the advantages of data entry in a spreadsheet, but one that comes with a process flow more in line with the skill set in our data entry community. Simple and efficient. So we're going to show it to you now in action. I've got a few sample scenario videos which we're going to look at to highlight how you might use them. I mean, you can see on this slide here that there's a lot of features in this module. So unfortunately, we won't have time to hit them all. We're going to do a few typical scenarios. We'll do creating mass project data, updating mass project data, and managing contracts. Actually, to showcase mass data creation, we could choose any aspect from Oracle projects, setting up templates, resources, budgeting. The process is very similar for them all, but we'll keep things simple by showing an example of the most basic scenario, building project foundation data. And that should illustrate the main features. So here's the ERP Cloud Toolbox. It's tightly integrated into Microsoft Excel, so you can log straight into Oracle to gain access to your user and role security. And then working within the spreadsheet, you can enter information directly into the cells, maybe taking advantage of Excel features like formulas or copy and paste from an external source. You can set default values to save you entering the same values over and over again. And you can also inspect your data with built-in forms, which provide the Oracle validated values for each element. There's support for your descriptive flex fields. And when you're ready, you can verify that it's valid or upload it directly into Oracle. Feedback comes right back into the worksheet, and the real-time validation stops any bad data reaching Oracle. Where it needs correcting, there are sensible messages which indicate how to go about that, and it's easy to make the corrections in Excel, or you could use the edit forms. And then you just reprocess the records. You can also download your project information from Oracle right into the spreadsheet. So you'll see the full picture. All the template tasks are in there, along with any you've added for the project. And you can see the advantage you get from being able to review many rows of data and not being limited to one at a time, like in the Oracle forms. Great. So the next thing we want to walk you through is project updates. This is a comment from one of our customers with his take on updates. And that's the thing, even if you could live with the shortcomings of FBDI for project creation, you have no mechanism there for maintenance. So you fall back on the front end. So it's only really half a solution. With more for apps, you get full control to do updates and maintenance. If Oracle will let you do it in terms of updates, so will the ERP Cloud Toolbox. So let's just see how that works with an update scenario. So updating projects is easy. We start by doing a download, bringing those projects into the worksheet to make our changes. These two projects here are based on the same template, and we're going to make header changes to one of them. So we can type those changed values directly into the cells, or like we saw before, use formulas if that makes things easier, and obviously use copy and paste too. So projects module supports all the updates allowed by the Oracle Web Services. We can update classification codes, add new classifications, modify our team member details, and again we use that defaults functionality which seeds the values into the worksheet automatically, so we don't need to enter everything in by hand. The full array of supported task updates are at our disposal. We'll use the defaults row here to update the task manager for all of the tasks and change the template's generic task names and descriptions using copy and paste. We'll update some task organizations, date ranges, and we'll update some other details and flags too. Excel copy down makes it easy to replicate those changes. And when we're ready, we upload the two changed projects. It's that easy. Feedback in the sheet shows what's been updated, and if we download those two projects again, we can see what they look like now. The header changes are there. There's the classifications, new team member details, and the tasks have our new values against them now too. So the last video I have for you is just a short one. We've seen the feature list for the projects module, but we've only looked at project foundation data in the previous video. So I thought I'd show you another aspect of the tool. This is a quick run through of the contracts integrator. And from what you've seen already, it's going to look pretty familiar, but this one does highlight the layout flexibility. So let's have a look at that one now. Just select the contracts integrator. The more for apps philosophy is that all the details for a given operation are in one sheet. So with contracts, that means headers, billing controls, approval submission, parties, bill plans, revenue plans, contract lines, line billing controls, and associated projects. As always, your sheet layouts are completely flexible, which means at any time you can shift columns around to get them in the order you prefer and remove any unwanted ones. so you can create the worksheet that works best for you. We put the contract information into the spreadsheet. Again, we can use any Excel feature that helps, like formulas, and copy and paste from external sources. Defaults let us speed up our data entry. And when it's ready, we click the button to send the contracts up to Oracle. So it's that simple. Once again, the messaging is clear for any upload rejections. And generally, the problem cell is highlighted, so it's easy to fix the data. We could use the built-in edit forms to leverage the Oracle validation rules and lists, or just make the correction directly in the sheet and upload the corrected record. Couldn't be easier. So hopefully that gives you a sense of how the tool can work for you. I'll just put this up. It's always helpful, I think, to see feedback from other customers. These are people that will be facing the same challenges that you are, so their experiences are really relevant. With MorphWraps, the whole approach is focused on the user experience. We want to make life easy for you. And as we've seen, the data owners control the whole process without any reliance on specialist skill sets. So if you can use Excel, you can use the toolbox. And like a lot of people out there, Derek's organization was really struggling with FBDI. And then the MorphWraps product was a real breath of fresh air for them. And this comparison matrix underlines that point. Lots of limitations with FBDI, which aren't there with the ERP Cloud Toolbox. But how does that all translate into productivity? Rob Kennedy at NCR has put together some stats for us so we can showcase the return on investment, and we're really grateful for that. So here's a couple of scenarios that he's described. So they had a requirement to add a DFF value for their accounting SLA config. Using MorphWraps, he updated the value across 9,000 projects within an hour. And manually, he estimated it would have taken one person more than 6 days to do that. And that's what he had to say about the whole thing. I'll just leave that up for a second so you can have a little read. The next scenario was updates at go live. During that process, they made nearly 25,000 updates to projects and tasks. And all that took less than 7 hours with the projects module. Manually, the estimate was approximately 17 days. And that's highly tedious, error-prone work. So you can see there how integral he felt the MorphWraps product was to that solution that they used. And then a last word from him before we sum up. For the money spent, spreadsheet integration is the best way forward. Look, we know that already. That's why FBDI ever even comes into the picture, despite all its shortcomings. But with MorphWraps, you get a better solution. It's an easier process for better outcomes. And that means improved business performance, reduced costs, more reliable data, better business insight, and confidence. Obviously, we've spoken about projects module today. And there's a lot of functionality there over and above what we've had time to showcase in the session. But projects module is only one component of the suite. There's also procurement, product definition, and the finance module. So plenty of useful tools right across the ERP. And obviously, we'd be happy to share any information on those. If you're interested, just get in touch with us. We thought it would actually be interesting at this point to get a gauge from the audience about where everyone is in the ERP Cloud Fusion discussion. How many of you are live already? So we have, you can see another polling question there for you now. It's useful to know from our perspective, but it's also interesting to see how you compare to your colleagues. So it looks like we've got a few live, a few migrating, and I guess some people are saying they're not live yet. Presumably that means it's on the horizon.
Are there reasons why you're not live, or are you going to be planning to be live? Other.
Yeah, if you want to put any information about your situation in the chat, it'd be a good discussion point. We've got the Q&A coming up in a second, so I guess we can cover it there.
Yeah. Get a few more. Okay, someone's planning. Okay. All right, I'll end it. All right. So those are the results. Yeah. Some are currently migrating and at least planning. A few people are live and a few people are not live. And then other, I am curious about that. Maybe just not on Oracle.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know how many people are sitting in an EBS environment, just checking to make sure when they do go live that they're going to be catered for. So especially any of our customers in that sphere, please rest assured that there will be something for you when you make that decision to go across. We're very busy building these products.
Mhm.
But that actually brings me to the end of the session for today. Hopefully you found it worthwhile. I want to finish off by saying a big thank you to everyone for attending. I'm going to leave my contact details up on the screen. You can take note of them, but we can open up the floor to questions now. So I don't know if anything's been put in the chat box so far, but fire ahead if you haven't already put them down. Stephanie, I think we'll probably drive this.
If anyone has any questions. I think a common one that's related to FBDI is, does the More for Apps cloud products need any custom work? Kind of like how FBDI needs some customizations.
Well, there's not a lot of customizations with FBDI even available, but you won't need to customize your tool when you're using the More for Apps product at all, but you can. So we've opened up layout flexibility so you can really shuffle your columns and limit them to real business process focused sheets. But you don't have to. You can literally take it from out of the box and use it. You saw with the contracts example how broad the columns were. There's a lot of data collection in there. And we do recommend that maybe it's worthwhile doing an exercise of just taking out any sections that you're not using, because it becomes a bit loud, a bit too much to look at once. But there is no requirement to do that. It's a spreadsheet at the end of the day. As long as you don't muck up the headings for the columns, you can pretty much change it to suit your needs.
Yeah, I don't have any other questions. I was hoping to get any like migration questions. If anybody has anything about migrating, I think that's a good one.
Yeah, and just on that point, we've just released for Christmas the first of our master data TCA product supplier. So if you're doing cleanup with, say, an EBS system, you can put that information into the tool and use that to migrate your suppliers directly up without too much hassle. We are building customers as we speak now. That's got a release date for this year. And obviously things like open items in the AP and AR field are catered for too.
All right, any last call? Any other questions? All right, well, before Andrew will give his final remarks, I just want to reiterate that the recording and the presentation will be sent out sometime tomorrow, so please keep an eye out for that email. And thank you again for taking the time to join us. And Andrew, any parting words?
Well, I don't have any parting words. I just want to reiterate that my contact details are there. So if you think of anything after the session or weren't able to get into words your question, just get in touch with me. I'll answer it after the session, or if I don't have the answer, I'll make sure that the appropriate person within our organization will get back to you. And I look forward to that too. Anyway, thanks again from me. I'll pass it back to Stephanie. I think we're probably finished.
Yeah, that's all. All right, thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, guys.